It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of Hashtag Event Icons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. So, you might be wondering, how do you get to ask questions? All you have to do is use the question panel on the right of GoToWebinar to submit your questions. Or you can hop on Twitter to submit your questions with the hashtag EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share hashtag EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is Hashtag Event Icons with your hosts, Will Curran of Endless Events, Laura Lopez of Social Tables, and Brant Kruger of Event Technology Consulting.
Hey everybody, it's Will back again for another episode of Hashtag Event Icons. Brant and Laura are out on assignment, as they say, but I am lucky because I get to talk about this amazing topic, which I've been so excited for this episode. In the house, we're going to be talking about the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And you might not have heard of this event, but I promise you, after we talk about this, you're going to be blown away by how epic and large and amazing this entire event is. And I want to get the people who knew this event the best. And, you know, the only two people I could think of were Brady Castro and Heather Holland. Brady is actually the president and CEO of Pro-Am Party and Event Rentals. Brady is actually an amazing guy, and the company Pro-Am, if you haven't heard of them, they are just a rock star in the Southwest of event rentals of every single kind, and you're going to hear a little bit more about the things that they pull off, and the things they create are just amazing, and there's not many companies out there like them, so you'll definitely have to be check that out. So huge shout out. Thank you so much, Brady, for being here in the house today.
You're too kind, Will. You're too kind.
And Heather Holland, who I know very well. Heather is an amazing event planner, event professional, event manager, all the above. And Heather actually got involved in the Waste Management Phoenix Open back when she worked for Pro-Am back in the day, but now works freelance and helps Pro-Am put on this amazing part of the event called the Bird's Nest, the Coors Light Bird's Nest, as if I'm correct in speaking the sponsorship correct. Heather is the mastermind behind all of it, and when you hear all the stuff that she pulls off for this and the epicness, you will definitely be impressed. So huge shout out again. Thank you so much, Heather, for being here to talk with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad to be a part of it.
All right, so I'm really eager to jump into this topic, and I think everyone else is as well, so I don't want to delay anymore. Let's start off by introducing you two so you guys can tell your stories and kind of what got you here today. So Brady, I think everyone's kind of curious, what got you to the point of being the president of one of the biggest event companies in the Southwest?
Well, oddly enough, I moved to Arizona after college to be a police officer, and while I was testing for the different departments, I started working for Pro-Am as a parking attendant, taking money at ASU games in November of 1998. And then I was a security guard. I was an overnight security guard. I did some event operations stuff, did some outside sales for a while, was a director of security for Pro-Am at a time when we were growing, and then we started some of the other guerrilla companies, the Guerrilla Power, Guerrilla Equipment, contributed to that. I became a vice president of Pro-Am in 2003. In 2006, I left. I went back to Chicago to try and do something else, and then ended up getting a job with the Super Bowl committee in 2008, the Super Bowl 42 that was here, and then went back to Pro-Am, and the company was growing, became the chief operating officer, and then in 2016, became the president CEO. And so here I am, after all that time, from parking attendant to, you know, I guess the president CEO.
I guess. I mean, it's crazy how you have that very much that story of like from the bottom and now you're here at the top. I mean, like you've seen every facet of the business completely.
Yeah. It's been interesting. It's been a good journey. I've been fortunate to work with some amazing people along the way, and like the lovely Miss Heather Holland here. And you know, I'm very fortunate to get to be surrounded by great people in this organization, great clients and partners. So it makes coming to work easy and makes my job easy.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm curious to know, if you wouldn't have gotten, the security job at Pro-Am all the way back in the day at the ASU games, what would you be doing instead of the events industry? Do you think you'd be a police officer? What would you be doing?
I always wanted to be a police officer. Looking back now, I think if I did something else, I would like to be either a teacher or a chef. That would be, I'd like to be a teacher so I can coach sports. Or I'd like to be a chef. I love to cook. So I think, if I was doing this, it would be a teacher, chef. I could still be a parking attendant. I was not a bad parking attendant, so maybe I'd still be doing that.
Still working the ASU games. I love it.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Heather, and I know you have an awesome story as well, so I want everyone to hear what got you into the events industry and what got you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started in the event industry when I graduated from college. Unfortunately, I couldn't get in to the market, as many newly grad people can probably understand the frustrations, and Pro-Am actually was looking for an assistant, and at the time I applied, and they offered me the position, and I started working for them, and they were graciously enough been able to allow me to grow and become an account executive with them, and I cannot thank them enough because they literally taught me everything and anything what encompass an event to make it successful. And so I started with them, and then now I still have a working relationship as I grow in different avenues in the event industry and still work with them to this day. And I can't thank Brady enough because he was such a mentor towards me and everybody else in that family of Pro-Am.
Awesome. Fantastic. And I think it's also very cool because, I think we're starting to see this more often now that, like people like you and I who got out of college and went straight into the events industry versus, stumbling upon it later on in life. But I think everyone would be curious to know, since you've been basically doing events your entire life now, what would you be doing if you weren't in the events industry?
I would love to be a professional water skier. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I would probably want to do something in maybe marketing or sports. But like I said, I was privileged enough to have the position open up at Pro-Am, and they were able to hire me and allowed me to grow. And I would have never thought twice about it. And I wouldn't want my life or my position in my career be anywhere else. I thoroughly love the event industry.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, I'm glad I got two natural-born event professionals with us today. So I know everyone's probably really curious, so what does Pro-Am have to do with the Waste Management Open and everything like that? But let's start off by explaining what the event is, because I think a lot of people are like, I don't know what this is, what's going on, and it's been named, for people who don't know, it's been named the greatest show on grass. And you might be, okay, now we know it's a sporting event, right? But can you both kind of explain, we'll start off with Brady if you can, talk a little bit about what is the Open, and it's a golf tournament. I'm going to break the surprise for everybody, but what makes it so different than a traditional other golf tournament that goes on?
So the big thing about the Waste Management Phoenix Open is it is the largest attended golf tournament in the world, by far. Last year on Saturday, we had over 200,000 people that attended. We had over 600,000 people for the week. Most golf tournaments will get, on a big day for a golf tournament, 40,000. Last year on our Wednesday, which is a Pro-Am day, we had almost 80,000 people.
Wow, what's the Pro-Am day for the people who don't know what Pro-Am is?
It's the Celebrity Pro-Am day. Some of the celebrities that played with some of the professionals were Mark Wahlberg was there, Michael Phelps was there, Jerry Rice was there. So they had a great list of celebrities that came out to play with some of the professionals, some of the corporate sponsors. Wednesday's a really fun day out there. They have the Shot at Glory, which is a Phoenix Suns charity event. It's kind of a hole-in-one event at the end of the day. But again, it's not a day of competition. It's not a day when all the pros are playing. For us to have 80,000 people out there, the weather was beautiful. The Phoenix Open has some of the best hospitality in golf. Everybody knows about the 16th hole, the stadium at 16, and some of the other big events, the Greenskeeper and the Bay Club. The Thunderbirds do an amazing job, not only of putting on a great event, a good time, hospitality. They give a ton back to the community. I think as of this year, they've raised, since the tournament's inception, raised over $110 million for charity, which is unbelievable for Arizona charities. It's just a great event to be a part of. It comes at a great time. It's being back from Illinois, I would always, watch the Rose Bowl and some of these events when it's 20 degrees below zero and snowing in Illinois in January, and you look out and there's people sitting in the sunshine, 70 degrees, drinking a beer, watching golf, and I'm like, man, that must be nice. So, the TPC Scottsdale is a great venue. And then, just the people that are there, the show that the Thunderbirds put on, the hospitality. We've got a great field. We typically get most of the top 100 players on tour every year. And then there's the Coors Light Bird's Nest, which is last year for the first time we had 8 national acts. We had 2 national acts every single night. And so that venue, there's 8,000 people in there, and you get to see some of the biggest acts in the world. And it's amazing. It's amazing what they do. It's amazing. It's all, right there in kind of that little area of the TPC Scottsdale. And we have people like the lovely Heather Holland who make the experience inside the Coors Light Bird's Nest something that people just can't imagine. It's a 60-meter tent. It's a 60-meter profile that we bought a couple of years ago, and we put 2 levels in there, a mezzanine level, and a bunch of hospitality, and pack it with a bunch of golf's greatest fans, and people have a really good time.
Awesome. I'm sure we're going to definitely get to talk a little bit more in detail about the Bird's Nest because it is a huge part of the event for sure. But before we do that, Heather, what are the reasons you think that makes the Waste Management Phoenix Open a little bit more special than most golf tournaments?
I think it makes it a little bit more special with most golf tournaments is because it's so interactive. I would say personally, I haven't been a ton of PGA tours. Brady has been to a lot of them, so he can, testify to this. But I think it allows an environment where people to actually enjoy the tournament. And not only that, there's different activities and different engaging activities that allows the public to come. Especially the 16th hole, I think we gravitate towards all people that are in the sport industry. If you don't like golf, you'll love it. You have to come for a weekend. You can't walk away and not like it. So I think that there's different avenues and different experiences throughout the courts that allow different people to come and experience this great tournament.
Awesome. I think I have to agree with that. Like I will say, I'll admit this on air, I'm not the biggest golf fan, but you go to that event and there's something there for everyone, and it is just an absolute blast. And I think what you hit on about being interactive is so important to making it appealing to everyone. But I think there's also a lot of craziness. I mean, you guys have already started to mention some of the big things that you work on, but I think what people need to know too is that you guys basically, for lack of a better term, you guys run a lot of the operational side of this event and do some really crazy things. You guys are out there weeks in advance. Can you talk a little bit about, how is Pro-Am involved in this, and what's the scope of what you guys manage? And maybe talk us through, like, from day one when you guys start planning this to the show starting until after, like, what does it all go into putting this on for what you guys manage? I'll let Brady start that one off.
Yeah, so really it's almost a 12-month planning process. We're well into meetings for getting ready for 2018. We'll drop our first stake in October. So we'll start setting in October. Pro-Am provides all the tents and structures. We provide all the tables and chairs, furniture and decor. Sorry about that.
CEO's busy man.
Yeah. We furniture and decor. We do the security for the course. We do the parking management, transportation management. Produce the Bird's Nest, the tent and the hospitality inside there. So really it's a lot of the logistics that go along with the tournament comes out of this warehouse and comes from our team in conjunction with the Thunderbirds and some of their staff. The Thunderbirds are great. Their chairmen every single year are trying to make it bigger and better every year, which I think is something that people see. You come to the Open one year and man, this is great. The next year it's even bigger. And so it's always growing. Great community support allows that to happen. Great corporate support allows that to happen. But it's kind of our flagship event that we do. Just because it's representative of every one of our services that we offer. Pretty much anything that we do here in-house, there's some of it at the Open. There's fence and barricades and bathrooms and tents and tables and chairs and generators and all of it out there. So it's a great event to be a part of. Like I said, we drop our first stake in October. I can't believe it's already here again. Heather and I were just talking. We've got a Bird's Nest meeting today to start planning for the Bird's Nest. And and so it'll all go up, and then the tournament will kick off January 29th, I believe, and by the middle of March, you'll never know we were there. So it all comes back down.
It's amazing that it's 3 months of building to pull this off. I mean, and when people hear tents and chairs, they might think maybe like pop-up tents, but that's not the case. Heather, can you talk a little bit about like what are these tent structures that you guys are building? Like, what's the scale? I mean, Brady, you mentioned the 60-meter long tent, but is that just one tent, or can you talk a little bit about, through the scale? Like, how many semis? I mean, like, it's insane how much stuff there is, right?
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. I'll let Brady tap a little bit more of the 60-meter that Pro-Am has in-house, which is phenomenal. It is basically a temporary building, which is awesome because the Bird's Nest, we want to create an experience that you walk in and you don't even feel like you're in a tent. And luckily we're able to do with that type of structure. And to tie back into Brady, I think Pro-Am, is so amazing because we're able to adapt it with all different departments. So like Brady said, when our first stake goes into everything and above and beyond to allow this to grow, to staffing, to security guards, to labor, to design work, to decor, I think it allows us to keep everything in-house, which is so special and so unique in so many environments, and just allows us to create the vision of the chairman that year and what they want to, our portion is a little bit down a ways. You walk through the entrance to come to the Coors Light Bird's Nest, and it just allows the party and the feeling of the atmosphere of the tournament to keep going. And that's what we want to start, is we want to allow people to watch the tournament and also allow them to bring them into, it is 8,000 people and growing, but it's a small, unique environment, and in one-on-one, I feel like people get that relationship with the concert. So it's not like in a stadium seating. You walk in and you don't even feel like you're in a parking lot, and that's our objective. But Brady can explain a little bit more about the 60-meter, but it's a phenomenal tent, and it's one of my favorite.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brady.
Yeah, the 60-meter is something we purchased in 2015. At the time, it was of that type, the largest clear span structure in the world of that profile. It's 60 meters by 75 meters. It covers just under 50,000 square feet, so it's just over 1 square acre. Last year, I think we had, between our first trip and last trip, over 1,200 round trips with delivery trucks to and from the TPC from our warehouse to move all the equipment. We have, I think almost 30,000 chairs that go out there, tables, furniture. There's quite a lot of equipment, quite a lot of logistics. We've got a great team that coordinates it. It's definitely a big endeavor. The scheduling and timing and working with the other vendors, it's a whole lot of stuff that goes out there for a week of a great time, and then it all comes back.
Amazing. What's the staff size that you have across everything? Like, how many total people between load in the show and loading out that it is to pull this event off?
On the operations side, in terms of delivery crews, there's days when there's upwards of 50 or 60 guys out there between the Bird's Nest and the course doing the deliveries and the setups and installing and everything. And then on the other side, during tournament week, our staffing is quite a bit more than that in terms of people and parking and security and quite a bit more.
Awesome. And we're definitely going to talk about parking because I think that's one of the most fascinating things about this event, but we'll get to that really shortly. One thing I definitely do want to talk about, because you talk about the 16th hole, and some people may have heard of this, but I think that people need to know from the get-go what this is and why. I think this is also one reason why it makes the event so different. But also then talk a little bit about what the 16th hole is, why it's different than most holes, and then I would love to dive into the structures that you guys build for this because it's absolutely crazy. So, Heather, I'm going to let you kind of explain from like maybe your first impression when you saw the 16th hole and what it was all about. What did you kind of think when you first saw the 16th hole, and what's your impression and what it's like different than any other hole in golf?
Yeah. I think it's so incredible. I remember the very first year I worked at Pro-Am, someone, my boss at the time, took me to go see the tournament. And I remember walking into the 16th hole, and I just got goosebumps. Like, I felt like I was in a huge giant, you are in a huge giant stadium, and there's fans going crazy. And it's such a small, unique environment that everybody around us just is so appreciative about golf at that time and so into it. It's the best feeling in the world. Like I said, even if you're not a fan of golf, you can't walk away not being a fan or not smiling or not having a good time. And the amount of that it encompasses in just a hole, you don't even feel like you're on a golf course at all. And I think that's what's so unique about this, is that it's so different than anything else on a PGA Tour. But still to this day, every time I walk into 16, I always get goosebumps.
Crazy.
You can't not. I just think it's inevitable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was gonna say and I mean, again, I'm not a big golf fan, so like I had to be educated on this. But most golf, obviously, you're super duper quiet while they're putting and things like that. But the 16th hole, like it's like the caddies are racing to get back to the hole faster. They're people are doing backflips and trick shots and all these craziness, and there's cheering while the golfers are actually going too. Correct? Like there's a lot of noise in like like you said, energy, like a typical stadium. Is that right, Brady?
It is, and I just sent you a picture of it. I don't know if there's a way we can post that, but I just kind of sent you an overhead shot of the 16th hole. Yeah, it truly is built like a stadium. I mean, the understructure encompasses the entire par 3 hole. We build all the tents on top of it and all the furniture and so forth. And at maximum, there's probably upwards of 20,000 people in there. So if you figure when you go to a Suns game, there's 20,000 people at the arena down there, you're looking at a similar setup in the around the 16th hole, and people are cheering, and the golfers go up to tee off, and there's so much energy, so much excitement. I think a lot of the tour pros feed off of that. Some of the guys, that's maybe not their favorite, which is completely understandable. The caddy races were fun. That was great to watch. It's a whole other level of energy. Everybody knows the hole. You hear the golfers talk about it, and as they're putting out on 15 and they're getting ready to walk through that tunnel, you're kind of walking into the Coliseum or into the stadium, and they know it's coming, and it's pretty special, and it's to be able to be the company that provides that, and to be the company that helps build that hole is pretty special to be a part of.
And it's not like you guys just set up some tents around the whole little bit. In fact, I think this year was the first year you guys added a whole new level. How many? It's like multiple levels. You guys create like a scaffolding, temporary. Like, can you explain it? Because like I can't I don't even think I can explain well enough to justify.
There's a company that comes in and kind of builds the understructure, and there's 3 levels. There's 3 tiers of hospitality, as well as the general public seating in there. And yeah, for the first time, it was for the most part 3 levels all the way around, and it's unbelievable. There's not a bad view in that whole place. And when it's Saturday and it's 75 degrees and sunny out, and you're there with 20,000 of your closest friends, and somebody sticks it close to the pin, or somebody puts it in for a hole in one, it's pretty exciting.
Awesome. And it's just absolutely crazy. It blows my mind that there's 3 whole levels to it, because you talk about like the bird's nest tent, that it's like a temporary building, but then you build a temporary Coliseum on the 16th hole. Just blows my mind. I think that's something you guys are really talented at doing. So speaking of bird's nest, I'm gonna we'll jump really deep into bird's nest, because I think that's where also there's I think the 2 major hallmarks that everyone remembers is the bird's nest and the 16th hole. So, Heather, can you talk a little bit about how the bird's nest has evolved over the years? You obviously have gone to 8 national acts this last year, and can you explain like what makes it so special? What you guys are trying to go for when doing this? And I was talking to someone else today who's involved in golf, and they were saying there's other people who are like wanting to create parties around golf tournaments now because of what you guys have done. So can you talk a little bit about what the bird's nest is, and what you've done in the past, and what you guys are like trying to accomplish with the whole event?
Yeah, so the bird's nest essentially is what we had talked about before, is that we want to create the event to keep going not only after the tournament, and I think that's really key, because we have such a great event on the course that the Thunderbirds and us creating this experience, we don't want it to end for the fans, and I think that's really important to us, is for allowing it to keep going. So the bird's nest is, I like to call it as like a quaint little area for people to still feel like they're involved in the tournament, but not only that, is to create an environment where they can watch a concert that's not in a normal stadium or in a normal arena. It's a little bit different, and it's a little bit more unique, and so we allowed it to tie it into a parking lot right across the street that doesn't even look like a parking lot. We completely transform it, which is phenomenal. So not a lot of people know, and we work with the city really well to build up the structures and keep the timeline going. And so that's where I think it's unique, is because everybody, wants to keep going and wants to keep that PGA and the waste management, open going. And so they're able to walk right outside the main gate and walk right into our gate and enjoy a concert. Brady has been involved, when it was very first started, as, it was really small, and then we've grown a little bit. And I think each year it grows. And like Brady said before, it's kind of cool because it's custom each year based off of what the tournament wants to envision, which is nice because it allows us to have a creativity to create new and unique design elements that allows people to see that, we're willing to grow and expand our knowledge, because I think it's key to, change one person's element when they walk into an event, whether that's, different flooring, whether that's different atmosphere event. I feel like once you catch one, of your 5 senses that are different, it, allows us to expand and grow as we grow in the bird's nest.
Awesome. You talked a little bit about like the acts. So you talked about the national acts. Can you talk a little bit about like how you guys, because I think I noticed something very distinctive about how you guys chose when the acts were going to. So can you talk a little bit about how you chose the acts and, the theming around each night, and how you tried to appeal to like a really broad audience?
So I think, there really isn't a format. Over the past few years, Thursday night has kind of become country night. We've had some country acts, Jake Owen, Dierks Bentley, on Thursday nights, which, people kind of look forward to that country. And then Saturday has kind of become, we've had some of the bigger DJs. We've had Tiesto, we've had Cascade, will.i.am was there a couple years ago. And I think that, over the 4 nights, it's, that country night theme has been very successful. Having the DJs on Saturday has been enormously successful. And then, we had Toby Keith last year, which was great. So it's through some of the partnerships that the Thunderbirds have, we get access to some of these bigger names. And, it's kind of who's hot right now. And to be able to bring that level of talent to the Bird's Nest and to all of our fans is just fantastic. And, we build out a great hospitality environment, and it's, you come to the tournament and you have a great time. And, oh, by the way, now you go get to see, some of the biggest acts in the world play right across the street with, a bunch of your pals. And it's such a unique experience. Other venues, other golf tournaments have similar setups. I think the level of talent that we get is pretty unique. And I think that's a big testament to what the Thunderbirds have built. The tournament, the community, it's fantastic. So that's something that, I'm sure this year's going to be bigger and better. We had some great acts last year, but I can only imagine what this year's going to be like. So get your tickets early.
Get your tickets early for sure. I think that's one of the coolest things too, is that that a lot of people sometimes just go to attend Bird's Nest, and they don't even go see the tournament. They just go to the concert. So you've almost created like this event in itself. Talking a little bit about these two the 16th hole, and then obviously everything surrounding the tournament, would be almost enough for most event professionals to be stressed out and have a lot going on. Then you add on top of it this massive concert with all these national acts. What are the biggest challenges that each of you see with the event that, whether they're hard or not, or just unique to this event? What sort of challenges do you kind of see around the event? I'll let Brady kick it off kind of from a high-level overview, and then Heather, if you want to talk about Bird's Nest afterwards.
So, our biggest challenge is always going to be the weather. Because it's an outdoor event, that's something that's very unpredictable. We've been very lucky, knock on wood, the last couple of years to have great weather. But when the weather is bad, a few years ago we had very cold weather. We had frost delays every single day. That presents a challenge. The number of people that we get, even though, between Scottsdale Police and Scottsdale Fire and all of our other partners, I think they and we do a great job of managing the crowds. But as the crowds continue to grow, I mean that inherently becomes a challenge. There's just so many people out there. It's, I think I read somewhere one time that on Saturday at the Phoenix Open, we're like the 6th largest city in Arizona. Just because there's such a concentration of people out there. That presents a challenge. Logistically, when there's so many people, you think about when you have to, restock beer and restock ice and move trash and do those kind of things, it becomes difficult. So there's always challenges associated with putting on an event of that size, with that magnitude of people, with the logistics. I think the team that's in place does a fantastic job of it, but the one thing that we can't control is always going to be the weather. And so that's always a big unknown for us, and we just keep crossing our fingers that it's going to be 75 and sunny.
I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, Heather, you get to stay inside of a tent, so luckily the weather hopefully doesn't affect too much on your end. But what are like the biggest challenges you see with the bird's nest?
Yeah, so we do expand a little bit into their fields, and so weather definitely plays a key part of it because like I said, we want to respect the city and properly make sure that all the grounds are okay and ready to go for a set. But I think the number one thing that I have to keep on track of is that even though we are separate from the PJ, if we're on the bird's nest from the open, we still have to keep a fine timeline with our operation because there might be a change in the course because they can't get on a certain grass that affects ours to move down a little bit. The tournament starts earlier than we do. We start a little bit later, but we need to make sure that we are always walking the same beat because if they need to take, more equipment and more labor, we need to make sure that, we adjust our timeline. So we're always communicating regardless if we're a couple feet down the road. I think that's key for all of us to make sure that we all support each other, and that's what's great about this team is that we communicate really, really well to make sure that we know, okay, they can get on this area and they're going to do this. Okay, we can shuffle a little bit our area. And I think that helps a lot that we all just stay supportive and communicate with each other.
Awesome. I feel like that's something like all event professionals need to hear anyways, right? Like, hey, it's all about communication. Yeah. But even, some people, they think, okay, communication is so critical for obviously interagency and multiple vendors and things like that. But even if you're all the same team, communication becomes extremely critical as well, which is very, very interesting. So one thing, we actually got a question from the audience. They said, hey, you're like a mini city. You had 200,000 people on one single day, 600,000 people across the entire tournament. And this is kind of my same question as well is, most golf courses are designed to maybe have like 100 spots because there's maybe like 100 people on the golf course at any given moment. But you have 600,000 people over the course of a whole entire week. How do you transport getting people to the event? How does the parking work? Can you just explain this? Because it sounds absolutely crazy. And you guys obviously play a big part with this and being able to manage it.
Yeah, so we are fortunate that we have space adjacent to the TPC. We've got lots to the north. We've got lots to the east that accommodate all of our general parking. We have a shuttling program that works pretty well. Over the last few years, we've of course seen a huge increase in people utilizing rideshare. So that's been integrating that into our model has been key because that traffic is additional to the people that are coming. There's valet out there, but it's really a very collaborative effort between the city of Scottsdale, the Scottsdale Police Department, utilizing the space, getting it prepared, creating a traffic plan that works that's going to accommodate those people, and it not only has to accommodate our tournament, but it really can't interrupt to the degree that we're able to the regular traffic around the city of Scottsdale in that area. And I know the neighbors get impacted sometimes, and we do our best to minimize that impact, but it's truly a team effort, and without the team that we have, I don't know if we'd be successful. Any of us would be successful on a standalone basis in making that work. So the fact that we've got great partners, we've been doing this for a while, we've got a pretty good plan that works. We have to adjust, on certain days for certain things, but we're fortunate that we have space available to park those cars in pretty close proximity to our event. There's the general parking lots to the north are about a half mile away. We've got lots to the east, which are a little over a mile away. And so that really helps us. We're very lucky with the space and our proximity. We're very lucky to have the partners that we do and the partnership with the city and with the Scottsdale Police Department to kind of make that plan that's as customer friendly as it can be. It's safe, it's efficient, and we're able to move that many people in the short amount of time that we do to and from the tournament.
Awesome. Heather, is there anything you want to add about the craziness of the parking at all?
I am blessed to leave that up to the experts, and they handle that. But I just ride my bike around. What I would say that I would chime into is that I am always astonished how developed Pro-Am gets, in the sense of they're always tweaking it with new things that come out, like Lyft, like Uber, all those social rides, is that they're always adapting to the market that they're in, which is great, because sometimes events, they don't really necessarily want to work with some of those outside sources that a lot of people are using. And so Pro-Am really does a really great job adapting and adjusting all of their parking needs to what's new and relevant to what other of the patrons are doing. And that's our number one goal, is to have the experience and not be frustrated in a parking line. Everybody's probably been there once. But I've seen it over the years that they've adapted so well with, what's been going on, that's new, and they've changed so many different things to allow it to grow and grow and be successful, just like it is, in today's world.
I love it. When you say that someone parks a mile away, most people will be like, a mile away, like in Phoenix terms, that's like a lifetime away of walking. But you guys kind of have a clever system. Do you have any specific tactics you have for making that super duper efficient, so then that way the customers are really happy? Some people might be in the same scenario. Their event's growing. They're trying to figure out, where do I get more parking from? It might have to be a mile away. What sort of tactics do you use to make that experience better?
I think the important thing is that you have to, what's the old saying? It takes a village to raise a child. In the special events in our world, there's really, the more people you can get involved, and the better you can create community partnerships within the communities you're working in, within, with the different police departments or the community planning departments, to get them involved, to get their buy-in. I think that that's kind of the secret, is to approach it in terms of from a partnership, to say, hey guys, we're bringing this event to your city. We want to make it a great experience for the guests. If somebody goes to an event in the city of Castro or the city of Mesa or the city of Chandler and they have a bad experience, it's not just, oh, I went to this event and had a bad experience at this event, but I went to this city and had a bad experience. So it's really, I think, important for, if you're an event planner and your event's growing, is who are your key partners? Who are your key stakeholders? How can you engage them? How can you work together to make the event the best event that it can be? And if you take that kind of partnership-centric attitude and get people involved, get the community involved, get the neighbors involved, get the city involved, get the police involved, you're going to be ultimately a lot more successful. And I think that the Thunderbirds as an organization have done an amazing job with the community. We're very fortunate to work with the municipalities we work with, the departments we work with, and I think coming there, humbly to say, listen, we want to do this event, we want to make it successful, we need your help. We need your help to make this as best as it can be, and get buy-in and get other ideas. And you're always going to try something, and when it doesn't work, you need to be able to adapt together. And if you've got a solid team behind you that can pull some ideas together, we've had days where one of our buses got into an accident on a busy Thursday morning at the Phoenix Open, right in front of our bus depot, and basically it stopped all of our bus traffic until the police department could help us get the bus clear to resume our service. And that 15-20 minutes of interruption created exponentially longer delays in the parking lot. So something as simple as a traffic accident can really mess things up. And unless you have the city working on your behalf and the police working on your behalf and people in the parking lots working, it could have been a lot worse than it was. So I just think that really it takes a community, it takes a village, and the more you can create those partnerships and get people involved, the more successful you're ultimately going to be.
Mic drop. Wow. I love it. So one topic that I wanted to jump into that not a lot of people might have been aware of. So I think it was 2 years ago. I feel like it all blurs together as we've been in the industry for so long. But 2 years ago, the Super Bowl was in Phoenix the same time as Waste Management Open. And also, I'm totally blanking on it because I'm so involved in this. I talk about Waste Management Phoenix Open right now. But there's also the car show, which I'm totally blanking on its name, was going on simultaneously. Bear Jackson, thank you. Bear Jackson was also going on. You had alone, these events would be enough to shut a city down, right? Super Bowl, right? Waste Management Phoenix Open or Bear Jackson, enough to keep it super duper busy. But they were all happening simultaneously across the city. And I'm really curious to know from each of you, what sort of ways did that change the event for you? And, did it pose new challenges? Did it create new opportunities? Can you talk a little bit how much that changed the event?
If you go back to 2015, that was a very unique 30 days in the Valley, because literally it started with you had the Fiesta Bowl, which was a big game that year, and then you went right into Barrett-Jackson, right into the Phoenix Open, and then Super Bowl. So, within 30 days, we really had all the eyes of the world on us for some of these signature events. And, the biggest challenge, I think, is there was just a shortage of resources. I mean, even though this is a very tourist, hospitality-centric economy, when you put all that stuff together, there's just not going to be a lot of stuff in town. So bringing in resources from other parts of the country was huge. There was, it was hard to get a hotel room. There was, the traffic. There was a lot of traffic on the streets. We saw increased attendance across the board everywhere. People were in town. There's a lot of excitement. It was great. And then, of course, then in, I think, 2016, we had the national championship. 2017, we had the Final Four. So really, it seems like for the past 3 years, we've been really lucky. Every year during that time, that first quarter, there's just these big marquee national events in Phoenix. I think that speaks volumes about, the area and our communities, and, the people working hard and putting on a good show. But that was a lot. That 2015, that was a lot.
And I'm sure, Heather, on your end, it was getting those resources was probably not so much fun. So can you talk about, like, maybe, what sort of tips would you have for someone who, let's say a Super Bowl is being planned the same time as their conference or their event, and there's a shortage of resources in their city? What would you recommend that they do, or where to look, that sort of stuff?
I think you need to, at that point, just think outside of the box where you might not think of. Maybe like tap into a university to see if they have a program where you can try and utilize their students to get credit hours to try to go a different avenue, because I think at that point you just really have to think outside the box and where else can you get resource, because you want people to still have a good event and a good experience. Just unfortunately, your normal resource and capabilities are probably tapped. It's going to try and find different avenues that you might not think of, like a university, to get some, self-employed or people that are trying to get into the market or want the experience or want to just come and work for free and just, understand it a little bit more. I think tapping into those can really help you instead of just stretching so thin, because, the core ones that normally a lot of people use, it gets stretched so thin. So you just got to think a little bit outside of the box.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, we only have a little bit of time left, so I'm going to try to fit in as many questions as I can before the end of the time. So the question from the audience is asking, obviously you've talked a little bit about the experience that you've created. There's these kind of hallmark portions of the event that have kind of become very, very key to their success. But why do you think, in essence, why the event continues to grow and boom, and why it has 600,000 people over the course of a week attend it? Heather, you want to kind of kick that off?
Yeah, I think it's something, no matter how many times you attend, I think it's always something new. Like Brady and I talked about earlier, is that we always try to change something, and the Thunderbirds do a really great job with allowing us to change different aspects of it. And I think it's really core that, like, we have so many interactions, and it always engages the public. So even if you don't like golf, you just have to come out and experience it, because you can't, we can talk about it, but once you actually arrive on site, it is a different playing field than you've ever experienced. And I think that's what's key, and I think that's the word of mouth. I think people come and see it, and then they tell their friends, like, dude, you gotta come. Get out of the snow, come to Arizona. Like, it's so much fun. I know it's a golf tournament, but you will have so much fun. And I think that's what really keeps us going, is because we just keep adding new elements and changing things and adapting, and it keeps growing, and more corporations want to come out and hold a skybox. And that's what makes it, I think, keeps coming back and back, and our attendance keeps growing.
Awesome. Brady, what about you? What are your thoughts on why the event continues to grow?
I agree with Heather. I think what the Thunderbirds and their community and the partners have done is create an experience that's unlike anything else. Is the energy and the experience of the Phoenix Open continues to grow every single year, and the mystique of the Phoenix Open continues to grow every single year. I have a lot of friends from Illinois, from Texas, that come out, and for the first time, when you're sitting in the skybox, in our skybox on 16, and you're looking at the hole and you're looking at the McDowell Mountains and it's 75 degrees and sunny and somebody just hands you a cocktail, you're like, holy moly, I can't actually believe that I'm here. And I don't know that there's a lot of places like that where you get that energy and that experience. And you know, we said that the Thunderbirds have done an amazing job of fulfilling a demand. You know, the corporate hospitality demand is there. They've created something that's cool to be a part of. To go out to the Phoenix Open, to be at the Phoenix Open is the spot to be at. You know, you don't really get that with a golf tournament. That's, you know, a club or a restaurant, or, you know, being at the Phoenix Open is a big deal. It's the place to be. And you know, that energy, that experience, it grows every year. It improves. It gets better every year. I think all the partners are dedicated to making it better every single year, which is huge. And, you know, it's one of those things. You have to see it to believe it. You try and explain it to people. My aunt and uncle came out this year for the first time. You know, this year will be my 17th Open. So, you know, for the past 17 years, they've been hearing about this big event. When they come out and see it for the first time, and they get there and somebody hands them a Bloody Mary, of course, and, you know, they can't believe it, and it's awesome.
Awesome. Well, obviously not every event is perfect, right? There's always things that we want to improve and change, and I think that's a testament to how you've kept evolving as time has gone on and improved things. But what would you say is one thing you would change about the event, whether it's something in your control or not, or maybe something completely out of your control, but what's one thing that you would completely change about the event to improve it? What would you do? So, Heather, you want to start that one off?
It never ends. I'm just kidding. I would want mine. Our last day of concert ends on Saturday. So we go Wednesday through Saturday. So we don't have a concert on Sunday. But man, that's a tough one. You know, it's so unique, like what we just tapped on. You know, the hospitality from like the general admission to if you have corporate, if you have greenskeeper, if you have VIP at Bird's Nest. I feel like the hospitality is so unique in this environment, in this sporting event. And I feel like every person, regardless of their ticket and where they are, feels that sensitivity. You know, not sensitivity, but sense of like urgency of like hospitality so key in this, and that's why I think it's so great. I would love it if we did a concert on Sunday, but we only stop on Saturday. So I'd say, yeah, I don't know if I have a change one. That one kind of stumped me. I just really love the event.
It's a good question.
Maybe Brady has a good one to back me up.
Mine's very easy. I would love for the tee times to start later, because getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning is not fun at all. I do not like getting up at 4 a.m. That's not fun. So if we could just start like a little bit later, like, you know, maybe get there around 8 o'clock, 8:30, that would be awesome.
Boom, there you go. I hope the Thunderbirds are...
Maybe wake up when it's not dark.
Hopefully the golf pros are listening. Golf pros, stop waking up so early to get your tee times in.
Yeah, tee off around noon, that'd be great.
Awesome.
First tee off noon, that'd be fantastic.
All right. Well, we have a couple minutes left, so I want to go into our last two final questions that we love to ask all of our guests. So starting off with the hallmark question, if you had to pick one thing to tell an event planner to make their events better in 2017, 2018, and beyond, what would be your one tip that you would give event planners, regardless of it relating to the Open or anything at all? What would you give event planners? So that's a hard question.
So I've been asked this question before. You know, I recently did a speaking engagement at Phoenix Children's Hospital for their foundation, and they asked this very question. And this is what I always like to tell event professionals, people who are getting in the event industry, or anybody in general. I think something that is a great rule of thumb is see the opportunity in every opportunity. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing, especially for event professionals and those starting out in the event industry. You may be asked to do what seems like the most boring, menial job you could ever have to do. And in the event industry, when you're starting out, there's a lot of those. You know, there's people. If someone says, "Where do I get started in the hotel?" I would say, go work in a resort and go be a banquet captain, or go work the front desk at a hotel. And now that's not glamorous at all. But if you make the most of that opportunity and you learn what you can from it, and you learn about customer service and people and crowd flow and management and you know, that's going to serve you better. And you never know who you're going to meet in this industry, because we're so we play when everyone else has fun. And so if you're always making the most of every opportunity and seeing the opportunity every opportunity, you never know who you're going to meet. And that person's going to say, hey, I met so-and-so. And by the way, you gave them really good service. That person drops a card on you. You just found your next job. So I think in the event world is even when it's not fun, show up with a smile. And get involved in your community. I think volunteerism is a great way for event professionals to network, to meet other people, to meet like-minded people. But I always like to tell people, see the opportunity in every opportunity. Even if it's not fun at the best, if you make the most of it, you never know what it's going to lead to. And again, I started as a parking attendant, and here I am 18 years later. So that would be my advice.
Awesome. Wow. See all the parking attendants out there. If you hang in there, you could be the president and CEO of the company soon. So
just be careful what you wish for. That's right.
Very true, very true. All right, Heather, what about you? What would be your one tip for event planners that you would have for them?
So I actually learned this tip when I first started. I went to a speaking engagement, and ever since then, I've always really stuck to me that you're born with a certain amount of senses, feel, touch. And I think that if you go into an event, if you can change one aspect of it, even if you don't have the budget, even if you can rearrange it, even if your client is kind of like, I just want the same as last year, if you can just change one element to add a little bit more creativity, I feel that the guests and the customers will walk in and see it. Whether you had a lay down flooring this year and you're able to do some portion of it as turf. I feel like when someone engages and feels something so differently than they're used to, I feel it allows to draw guests in and your client also be happy. And it's something that you can do so small or so big. I feel like as long as you want to keep changing and growing and adapting, and this market is all about what's new and what's better and what design can you do and what decor and how you can build a tent into a circle. Like there's so many things that people want done. So I think as long as you just change one little element, I feel like it can help you in the long run. And breathe. It's a stressful environment and stuff is going to go wrong. And I think Brady told me a couple times, just breathe. So as long as you remember just to breathe, you'll be fine.
Awesome. Well, I love the advice too of the one thing. I think there's a good book called The One Thing that kind of has that same mentality. It's like, what's your one thing that you have to change? And if you focus so hard on that, that's going to go further than you trying to change a million different things. So I love that advice. Awesome. Well, we're on to the last and final question. This is Will's favorite question. He loves to ask. Only cool people can talk in third person. But so, what cool resources, websites, books, blogs, gadgets, things that you love right now that you want to share with the audience, whether it's a new productivity app or a cool blog where you get your ideas from, or a great book you just read. What sort of things do you guys want to share? And I'm going to make sure that we include all of them in the resources down below, and I'll be taking furious notes as you guys go along. So feel free to just say them out loud, but let's kick it off. Brady, why don't you kick it off with some cool resources?
So I'm old school, and one of my favorite resources, something that I love and I believe in and I reference a lot, is the book. It's called Be Our Guest. It's the Walt Disney customer service book. There's so much in there that is so simple, and if you read it and pass it on and live some of it, I went to the Disney Business Institute, and it's funny, as corny as it sounds, when you get to Disney, they say, what do you feel? It's magic. You truly feel magic when you go there, and it's so many things about that place. And so I love that book. The other, there's a lot of other good books out there. I think TED Talks are huge. I think that I'm a huge fan of TED Talks. There's a lot of different, especially for people who are maybe coming up in the industry and starting to manage and starting, leadership. There's people that are good managers. There's people good leaders. It's hard to be both. So I think the TED Talks are an amazing resource to learn about yourself, to learn about the people that you work with. Self-improvement is one of those things that you can never do enough of, growing as a person, growing as a professional. So that would be my two things. I'm sure there's much more cool gadgets out there, or blogs or stuff like that, but I'm an old guy. You can see the gray in this beard here. It's that's what almost 20 years the event industry gets you. But Be Our Guest is one of my favorites. TED Talks. anything that helps you grow as a person, grow as a professional, I think is gonna benefit you in the long run. So that's my old school, old man, low tech technology advice for you.
I love it. I love it. It's awesome. I haven't read the Be Our Guest book, so I think I've been hearing it a couple times on the show, so I think it's finally time I sit down and read it for sure.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. I'll
Heather,
send you a copy.
Yes, please do. Please do. Heather, what are your favorite resources that you have right now? Apps, technology, really anything at all?
So I'm going old school too, like Brady. I have the best book that someone once gave me, so I even brought it. It says, "Where You'll Be in 5 years from Today," and I feel Brady nailed it. Like, I can't believe we're already starting to plan. It's like when you're in the event industry, I feel that you go through this crazy cycle. It's like Groundhog's Day. You're like, wait, it's back again. And this book really allows you, it's so simple and so great, it really allows you to pinpoint where you want to be in the next 5 years. And it even drops it down to like a year. And I think if you write out your goals and your objectives and make sure you still want to achieve those, both in your professional career, I feel like that'll make you stay on track. Because I feel like sometimes, I mean, Brady can attest, it's like, oh wow, it's another year. Like, I can't believe another year went by. So I feel like staying true to where you want to go and where you want to move and where departments and industries and levels you want to grow, I feel like this book really allows you to navigate it, and it's so simple and it's such an easy read. Someone gave it to me once and I've always just kept going back to it, and I would definitely say I'm old school too, like you, Brady.
I like it. Awesome.
Always a good book is good.
Another one that I have not read, so I definitely need to add it to the wish list. But I think what you said is very important. Staying focused, like long term, because sometimes we get so focused on these opportunities that come in, but they might be taking us down a road that we don't want to go down. But if we keep focused on long term, then we can go towards that. So I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have a quick resource. If I can extend my headphones really quickly enough to go grab it. So the resource that I have to share, if I can pull it up real quick, I was like super anticipating. Didn't think I was going to share this, but it's my new favorite thing. This is it's not a book, it's a bag actually. So for those who don't know, I'm a big bag nerd actually, and I love having new neat backpacks and things like that. But and as Heather knows, I live out of my backpack basically when I travel. So this is the Peak Designs Everyday Carry Bag, but it's got a kind of a cool design to it. Let's see if you can kind of see it. But it's got a kind of cool design to it, but it has this clasp that opens, and it opens from the side so you can get at it, and just a really cool, unique design. If you're looking for a new backpack, check it out. It's a little pricey, but it's totally worth it because I put everything inside there. So definitely check that out. So I wanted to just share that with everybody. Backpack. Thank you, thank you. And it looks a little professional too, so that's like the key. You have to find that like striking balance between professional and functional. So
Herschel, have you seen the Herschel backpacks? I like the Herschel backpacks. Those are pretty cool.
Herschel bags are super duper cool because like they got that kind of old school look to them, which is really awesome. I love Herschel. Awesome. Yeah. Well, that brings us. We are at the top of the hour. Time has flown. An hour has gone and come and passed, but that doesn't mean that the conversation can't continue. Obviously, we'll keep talking on Twitter about this amazing event, but I want to give a humongous thank you to both Brady and Heather for being on the show. You guys were absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure a lot of people have learned a ton and are going to be hounding you guys for more answers on how you guys put on this epic event. So thank you again for being on the show, Heather and Brady.
Thank you very much for having us, and we're all very, very fortunate to have the lovely Miss Heather Holland joining us today from Denver, Colorado. So
I love it. Awesome.
Thanks, Brady.
Well, thank you, yes, Heather, for being on the show, and we hope to catch everyone again next week for another episode of #Icons. But we must all wish you goodbye, and we will see you all very soon.
Bye, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
We're supposed to be dancing.
Head to www.helloandheather.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the Twitter conversation sponsored by Alex Plaxton and Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.
Bye.
Stop recording, but it is not stop recording. So this will be on the record and recorded. But thank you guys again for being on the show. That was amazing. Like, seriously, learned so much. That was fantastic.
Thanks for having us. That was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Good. I'm really glad you guys had a great time.
Yeah.
So, I will hit both of you guys up afterwards, and definitely let me know, Heather, when you're back in Phoenix, and Brady, I'm sure we'll catch up very soon, and I look forward to seeing both of you very soon.
Since I don't tweet, if there's questions or something that you want to just email me, I'll be more than happy to answer and respond to them.
Perfect. We'll shoot those over to your way for sure.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Brady.
Thanks, Will. Be
Bye,
well.
guys.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.